right, welcome everybody to episode 4 of LeafyTV podcast. I'm joined today by No Sleeves Gaming, Sleeveless Gaming, No Sleeves 12.
Bro, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. I went through a real bad branding crisis, and I can't really escape it at this point.
All right, well, you probably know this guy anyway, so it doesn't matter. Game changer, game changer, streamer, YouTuber, all that stuff. I don't know. The guy does everything, really. I think.
And you dabble.
As per usual, we're just gonna talk some NHL. Probably, a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of HUT, maybe touch on the other modes. But I think those are like the two big ones for you. Maybe some esports too. You're a big esports guy.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, first thing I always start with is asking just general gameplay thoughts. You're on like a big stream streak or something, right? You've been streaming like 200 days in a row or something like that.
Almost 200 days.
So, as you fire up your stream every single day for nearly 200 days in a row, how are you feeling when you play NHL? Like before you get into it and then while you're playing it.
Okay, all right. Well, the reason why I'm playing it some days is because it's my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, in terms of like gameplay, I'm gonna get flamed by LeafyTV Nation here, but I actually don't mind the gameplay this year. I think that in years past, like starting with 18 being like the worst maybe ever.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of gameplay, 19 was like the half spin meta, which just looked ridiculous, regardless if you liked it or not. And 20 was like, if you used a player below 6'5", it was just not an enjoyable experience. So I think 21 is actually low-key not bad. And I know everyone is going to be like, dude, you're just an EA shill. But like, I mean, if you really think about it, it isn't as bad as those prior iterations. So the backdoor cross crease is, frustrating, but I think that there's ways to help lessen that. But no, I don't mind the gameplay. I think the real issue this year, which is kind of wild to me because it's always just gameplay that is always complained about the most, is just the emptiness of Hockey Ultimate Team specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think World of Shell is actually, I don't play it much at all anymore. Just this is going to sound insane, but I don't have time. As NHL is my job, I don't have time to play sixes. So I can't really talk to sixes too much. But I think that the playoff system is a little flawed. It's cool that it's there, but I think it's a little bit flawed. But I just think that like the gameplay and the actual like the stuff that you can actually do week to week is a mess and extremely empty. It's like they removed everything that was kind of unused, like draft champs and online seasons. And then, which is okay, I guess, when you think about it, because the rewards weren't really there at all. And we have a smaller player base, so it kind of focused everyone to go into like one or two things, which again fixes a bigger problem. But then when you have nothing else, like it's like the content can be as fire as it wants, but like if there's literally like 3 things to do, it's pretty tough, especially when it rivals is skill-based matchmaking. So it's hit or miss. I think this year, again, like I said, I think gameplay this year is better than it's been in a long time. And I think this year's NHL, not the worst. I'll say that.
No, I mean, I don't disagree. I've been like pretty bored by the gameplay the past few years, and that's like probably a me thing more than the game thing. Like maybe I just have played so much NHL that I'm just kind of growing out of it. But no, I mean, I don't necessarily think that it's bad, and I think it's been improving every year. The reason that I make a big point of asking about this mostly is because, it's what you're doing like 90% of the time that you're on the game. Like, first off is like you're playing it. But secondarily, like the community has been really vocal about the fact that there has not been a gameplay update. As if they don't like it or they want something changed.
Exactly. Yeah, I
want to ask, like, why is that? What do you like? What is it that people want? So I like to ask.
I think that this is a more of a psychological thing. All
Mhm.
right, let's okay. I'm gonna break something down here that a lot of people will probably disagree with, but humans don't like losing. All right, so if you play a game that is 1v1,
Yep.
okay, there's really only three things that are factors that can go into it. It's yourself, your opponent, and the game. Now, if you sit down after working 9 to 5 and you lose a game badly, the first thing isn't like, wow, I was terrible. Like that isn't the normal, response from almost every single person. No one wants to blame themselves. Having self awareness in a video game, that sucks. You just worked all day. You know what I mean? Like you want to have fun. Losing's not fun. So when you combine the fact that Rivals is now hard matching, it's what online seasons should have always been. Online seasons was a joke because you would just play and you would get matched up in Division 1 against like Division 6. And the reason why people want online seasons back is because you want easy wins. And I play the game all day long. Man, you tell me that I don't want to, I have to play against every sweaty QC player out there. Like I'm not even elite. So like it's tough sometimes. And I have people watching me. So the stress on that is even more. But I think that people don't want to blame themselves for a loss. Like if you are losing in the same way over and over again, like Regs isn't losing, Gren's not losing. You know what I mean? Like there's elite players, and the reason why they've adapted to the gameplay and they play it 10 times more. But I feel like people they want change because they think that a gameplay update would fix things and make it easier or different for you. But man, NHL, I don't know if it was 20 or 19. What was the one where we went back to beta? Was that
I think
last
that
year?
was 19.
That was 19. Yeah. What a mess that was. You know what I mean? Like they gave us what we asked for and we completely hated it. You
Yeah,
know
we
what I
were
mean?
wrong.
Like,
We
and
were
no one,
wrong.
and we were wrong. Exactly. Just like everyone complaining about wanting dedicated servers. How dedicated servers work in Call of Duty compared to how they will work in NHL is apparently far different. And we complained for like a decade about dedicated servers and how great it would be. Turns out, not really when you playing a sports game that has insanely fast movement and mechanics that will be greatly impacted by your ping, right? Like that's the thing. I think that not just NHL, but sports games like as a whole when it comes to gameplay, I don't know of a video game that has a consensus, "Oh my god, this gameplay is amazing." Like I don't know if that's ever happened in a
Mhm.
sports game. Only years later when everyone's like, "Man, NHL 14 was the best." Let me tell you, I do a stream every single year where I go back and play every single NHL in one stream. It is it is not the best. Like it is good and it's more arcadey and you can do deeks and a lot more stuff like that. It's cool, but man, like it's tough. So I think that the lack of update and patches and whatnot, I don't really think it's all that required. And again, I'll get flamed for that, but that's okay. I mean, I recently had a talk with Ben, and obviously, you being a game changer, you know that there's a few developers that are super passionate about the game. Like, there's some that don't really, it's their job to get the game work. But then there's a few that are super passionate and want to always discuss the game and they work on their craft. And Ben asked me because I made the meme about how the ship in the Suez Canal is the only thing that can block a backdoor cross crease, and that's just me on social media trying to make it a good tweet, which it was. But he was like, I wonder if because people have their defensemen on their offhand, the defensemen in their own zone are trying to intercept passes on their backhand. I wonder if that would impact gameplay. Turns out, if you play defensemen how they're actually supposed to be played in real life, they don't give up cross creases nearly as much. And it has changed how I play. And I know a ton of actual like Saphir has been doing it all year long. And
Mhm.
it's wild because the first thing you think about is like, oh my god, but now you can't one timer. Yeah, but that means that you're not utilizing the point as much. You're you're keeping the puck down low behind the net. I think the one biggest advantage it forces you to do is learn how to read the offensive zone more. And if you're behind the net more and not just going back to the point every time, you're not turning it over at the point, which means now your opponent has to go back the entire length of the ice through your entire team, as opposed to just trying to pepper one timers and getting it turned over right off a shin pad or a block shot. And I've given up way less goals. And I just beat Saphir in a champs game like I should have lost, full disclosure, but I just beat Kesso using this method. I actually held my own in that game. But like so it's not like you know, I'm in Division 1, so like all I'm playing is sweaty players and champs, and my gameplay's gotten better. And I think that the intercepts are way higher when your defensemen are on the right side. It's crazy to me. But it, you know, the gameplay developer, I guess, sometimes knows what he's talking about when it comes to, you know, improving your gameplay. But it turns out that like that is significant, and I think that's the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest complaint of the game so far has been the backdoor cross crease. And I'll tell you this: that because defensive awareness at 99 now, it happens far less once you switch your defenseman back to the position they're supposed to be playing. And the last thing on that, I think that at the beginning of the game, because defensive awareness is so low, for anyone that doesn't know, defensive awareness is the stat that improves your ability, your player's ability to intercept passes.
Mhm.
At the beginning of the game, it was so low, and I think that Kesso is the same. Talks about this too. Is that I think that's why backdoor cross creases, when you combine the fact that everyone's using offhand defensemen, they were going through so easily. And for everyone that gives up after a month because they're not very good at the game, or they don't like how the gameplay is going, I think that unfortunately they suffered from that, because now defensive awareness is at 99 for every defenseman. It's a lot better in that sense. But yeah, I think people, I don't want to tangent there, but you know, people asking for patch updates and whatnot. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't think the gameplay. The one thing I will say about EA, every time they try to fix something, two things break. Like, I don't really
Yeah, it
have
is kinda
faith.
true.
Unfortunately, I don't have faith in them making a change. I would rather have the game stay the same than them try to fix something and now, you know, the curve shots back of the game or something. Like that just always seems to be the case. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not big on them needing a patch in this one.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because like the big thing that people always say every single year is like, we have the beta, people love the beta. We
Mm-hmm.
have then like the first patch and it ruins the
Mm-hmm.
game. Everybody always
Yeah.
says that every single year. So,
Yep.
you know, I don't I don't know necessarily that the gameplay doesn't need an update or doesn't need a patch, but
There's things that they can fix.
Yeah,
Don't hear
and
what I'm not saying. Like,
yeah,
there is 1000% things that need to be fixed. But again, I don't know if the positives outweigh the potential negatives.
yeah, just like the reason that I love to ask these questions is because like when you see it on Twitter, they're always like, they don't care about this. We haven't got an update in, 6 months or whatever. And nobody ever actually says what they want to be updated.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love to ask because I want to know, what do we actually want to be updated? What do
I
you
think
want to
that's
see
what
change?
separates guys on Reddit and Twitter and game changers. I think that's one thing that they don't realize, that game changers often give the exact reasons and point out the things that should be, or the issues that they have, whereas a lot of guys that want change, they're just literally just saying we want change but not saying
Yeah,
what
I
it
mean,
is.
I think the reason for that is also because we've been conditioned to know how to talk to Ben Ross. Because
Yes.
if you just
Yes.
say,
Yeah,
this
it's
sucks, it's not going to get you anywhere. So,
he's tough to deal with sometimes, I will admit that. But yeah.
No, I mean, listen, I love the guy. Like, you literally, I say this all the time, but you don't want anybody else working on your game. Like, truthfully, like, he's the most
No.
passionate, most hardworking guy that I've
Yeah.
ever seen. So, like,
Absolutely.
I mean, you might disagree with like his vision for the game, or like, he's more of a realism guy, and I argue with him on that like literally all the time. I talk about gameplay, but as far as like actually caring, like there's nobody that cares more. Like, nobody in the world. And so
Nope.
I mean,
I agree.
it's nothing against him. It's just sometimes it's the way that you have to be when you're a developer of people that are so critical of your
Mhm.
game, especially when it's a yearly cycle, because like all the time there's always some problem, but you have to actually question, how do we fix it? First of all, why is it a problem? Why don't people like it? And then how do we fix it? And so I think
Exactly, yeah.
when me and you talk about the game, or when we give feedback, we've already gotten used to that whole thing of, we need to answer those questions first before we present it to him, because you already know that he's gonna dissect it on every level.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, but it's, you know what? It's, like I said, it's interesting to hear about, because we're now, what did I say, episode 4? We're four people in, and I think every person has pretty much said the same thing as you. They're all game changers, though. I don't know if that matters, but
Yeah, I think sometimes I think about we might have a biasness to it, and it's not that like we love EA. Like, man, sometimes I wish that you could just show like without context some of the talks that like it gets heated.
Yeah.
Like it is not always sunshine and lollipops, man. Like there
No.
is some heated talks from us, but just because we don't go out on a pedestal and just scream that this game sucks, like you know what I mean, like that we obviously don't care about it. Like it's
Yeah.
just not, you guys just don't see it. But yeah, sometimes it's not very, to be honest, most of it when it comes to debating gameplay or content and stuff like that, it's not good. It's not, it's usually about, this thing needs to get adjusted or changed.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it's so when you say that, it makes me think of when we did that All-Star thing, and EA posted on Twitter, and I was reading through the comments of when they announced like who's gonna be in it, because I always think it's hilarious to read those, and
Yeah.
like so many of the people were like, oh, it's just all these same people that just bow down to EA and will never criticize the game, and it's like, you really just don't know what you're talking about. Like, you probably don't even know who I am. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and yet, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe like sometimes we're not so publicly critical because we don't need to be, because we just like are like, hey Ben, this sucks, and like let's fix it, rather than like
Yeah.
posting about it on Twitter. But
Hmm.
um,
I agree.
yeah, I always think that's hilarious because like you said, I mean, we see the back channels, so like we know how intense some of the conversations can be and how often people are complaining about stuff and trying to get things changed. Um, but I mean, life of a game changer, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
But I mean, getting back to gameplay a little bit. So gameplay's fine. You like it. You don't mind it. You don't think that
Yep.
there's things that can be fixed, but you don't think that anything in a
Hmm.
patch necessarily would really do anything drastic for you.
Yep.
This year they introduced a bunch of new deeks, a bunch of
Yep.
new stuff. People don't really
Literally never use them.
literally never use them. Yeah. Um, as I just mentioned, I always argue with Ben about arcade versus simulation because I'm an arcade person for sure. I want the game to be fun and fast and interesting to look at. Um, so when I see these new deeks, I'm like, this is awesome. And then when I see that nobody has ever used them ever and they're not effective at all, it's like the sky is falling because that's not how this is supposed to work. I want to see those in. Um, what what's your take on creativity in the game right now? And like variety and the goals and stuff. What do you
I
think of
think
it?
that I've talked to Ben about this like ever since I've been a game changer, that eventually every gameplay debate always comes back to like, do people want the most realistic hockey game, or do they want like an arcade one? Like that's
Hmm.
really what it comes down to. And I think that the one thing that's frustrating as someone who plays this game all the time, and that people, almost every single player forgets, that if you watch an entire game of hockey and how much just randomness and luck happens in a game, like a shot from the point, for example, in real life is just a mess. And what can actually happen and bounces just from the nature of how hockey is played. But when people lose because of that, like they lose their mind.
Yeah.
But if you watch how hockey is actually played, there is a lot of luck involved in most cases. It doesn't dictate in a 7-game series, but throughout one or two of those games, I mean, there's stuff that happens in it that is just like, oh my goodness. And I think that when you're playing a video game that you're in control of, people want 100% of control, and that means they want a realistic game, but that means it's super serious all the time. And when everyone talks about how NHL 14 was the best, like the deeks were very fluid, and that was basically all you did in them. It was very flashy, and I think it's weird because if we went all the way back to that, I don't know how many people would thoroughly enjoy it, because you see many people that complain already that the game doesn't look like real hockey. Well, if everyone's just doing like these insane deeks all the way down the edge, like that doesn't look like real hockey either. So it's a very tough balance. Like that's why I kind of like what happened this year, where like because of the cross creases, this was probably the first year where that you had to play manual defense, um, or you'll get stuck in like Division 3. Like, if you didn't manually take out, and sometimes you had to literally body the backdoor person,
Mhm.
um, you would just get roasted by it. But in terms of like the new deeks and whatnot, only the bank off the boards one is somewhat useful.
Yep.
Everything else, I don't know if it's just because maybe in a couple years when they're more readily available. No one's trying this fashion. I remember when that clip came out and everyone, I mean, the game
Lost
should have the
their
same
minds.
response.
Just lost
The
their
game
minds.
should have the same response when we saw, like in May or April of whatever it was
Yeah.
last year. We were all like, that can't be easy because that is gonna break, especially in sixes.
Yeah.
But it's literally impossible. Like I've never been able to do it in a game or even come close. I've done it twice in practice mode when it was easy. Like it's just not obtainable, and that's as it should be. Like if someone is able to do that to another player, like that is an all-time clip, just like it's like an all-time goal. And I think like that's just super not utilized. But the bank passes and stuff, they might become more useful as people get more used, because I think a lot of people just forget that they're there.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
Like they're so accustomed to just, doing the self sauce down the boards to try and get by a winger or a defenseman. And again, that was an NHL 19 like mess. People forget about that. But that's still slightly in the game. And I think that people, unless that's taken away, I don't think we'll see like any of the new deeks really utilized. They're cool. Some of them are nice, but I don't think that people don't like relying on deeks to beat other people. They like relying on like the known setup plays and whatnot. So maybe in another year or so of having the deeks in the game, but yeah, this year it didn't really do anything in my opinion.
Where do you lie on that spectrum of realism to arcade? Where do you want it?
Um, Man, it's weird because as a content creator, man, I would love to be able to do like the leafy flip constantly. Like that's like that's the go-to, because like getting those clips, those are Twitter impressions right there,
Yeah,
and that's how
absolutely.
that's how Nasher became so big. It's why you see him do 80 leaks in a game, because one will hit and that's a million views. Like,
Yep.
so I don't know. I honestly I like the realism more. I think that if you're gonna play a hockey game, that's fine. I think that there should be a mode like Hut Rush, which is essentially a whole other topic. But I think Hut Rush with it being more arcadey is cool. I think that is how it should be. I think that every other game mode, whether it be Hut Champs, Rivals, all that, should mimic the game as much as possible. I think that people just forget how much randomness actually happens in real hockey. It just looks a lot cleaner, and other like when a game thing breaks again, people don't like, that's obviously, that's a tough look. But in real life, man, like pucks go off of all sorts of stuff to end up. I mean, there's literally a goal where a ref gets hit right in the nuts and it ends up in the net. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that happens. So like, I think that people just forget that the randomness is part of it. And I like the realism part, to be honest with you. That's why I hated the
Interesting.
half spins. I couldn't stand the half spins.
Really? Yeah, I mean, there was like a point where there's obviously, I think even people that liked the left trigger, left L2 moves,
Yep.
realized that it got a little bit out of hand. I don't mind it. Like in general, I don't mind that that's a skill and like that's an effective way to play. But
Hmm. Increases the
last
skill
year, a
gap for
couple
sure.
years ago, like it was just ridiculous. Like it was by far way too much.
It looked really dumb. Like
Yeah.
the holding out the skill stick and wiggling a little bit when
Yeah.
going to a loose puck. Like that's the stuff I can't stand in the game. But again, it's something that I'm scared if they patch it, it will just break something else. So if that is what's in the game to get the slight, because it's not big. The
Yeah.
advantage you get is not big, but it's enough when you combine it. Same with the hip check thing. That's
Mhm.
really bad logic. But like those other things that they're not super bad, but I would love to see that removed in the game for sure.
All right. So, one last question, I guess
Mm-hmm.
gameplay related. Since you do go through and play every games
Yep.
past every year, um, is there anything that those past games actually do better, or that you think do better than current ones? Any like, I don't know about gameplay features, but just like little differences that those games feel like that they did well. Since there's always those nostalgia factors and people that maybe haven't gone back to those games in a while, but they remember loving them. It's definitely like the people that have been around, the players that have been around for a long time always love to compare to those old gen games. So as somebody that goes through and plays them all every year, um, how do they compare? Do any of them actually hold up?
Like gameplay wise, honestly, not really. Other than that, like early teens, I can't remember what one it is because they all kind of blend
Mm-hmm.
together in between like 11 through 14.
Yeah.
Two of them are awful. Like I think it's 12 is like the worst game I've ever played of NHL, and it's so random. But I don't know what happens. I don't know if it's like a new skating engine. I
Yeah.
think it's 12. I can't remember. But when the height of the game, when like it was all deeks and stuff, that's fun. Like that was really cool. But then you're taking out the skill stick, which I think is just like going back and playing those games with no skill stick. It's not nearly as good defensively. Like that kind of sucks. I'll say this about old games: like they look great still. Like they're either, I don't know if that's a detriment to the newer games graphics not really improving, or like the old games like they look really nice. Like I think like 14 or even 13 on the one where you start in the Winter Classic.
I think it's
I
13.
don't know what one that is. I think that's 13. That like it looks really nice. But honestly, I think that the main problem that game or that games did back in the day um that it's all like feature stuff, not gameplay. Like GM mode has just been I actually don't mind GMO now, other than the roster thing. Like, I think that's a mess. How they continually find ways to break that. Like the rosters deleting, which basically just eliminates the fact that because there's no roster sharing,
Yeah.
Tugi got slammed with that, and I literally felt so bad just
Ah, so
from
bad.
like a business standpoint. I couldn't imagine if my hut team just got eliminated. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? From like a
Yeah, I've
like
seen
from
that's
just like a
actually been
money
happening to
earning.
people too. They've been logging on, their
Yeah,
hot team's gone.
like that it's just so wild to me that like that can still happen. But I think that the last 2 years they've added some things to GM mode to make it really good. Is if roster sharing gets implemented in the game, then I think this is going to sound crazy, but it's probably the best franchise mode among any sports game. Because it just seems like we're entering that era where because everything's online and Ultimate Team is just the flashy social media like juggernaut that it is, that I think franchise mode is just slowly being pushed out of games, which is sad because when I was younger, I only bought NHL to play franchise mode. Like that's all I would do. And I remember those old games that there's just a lot more features in them that were just so much better than what is in there now. In terms of HUT, like I don't know if there's like I actually can't stand the cards prior to like this and last year. I think Nicholas in the content team, like the new look of cards, like I hate going back and looking at what the old cards looked like. I think FIFA's cards look terrible. I think that they just look lame. Like from like a viewer standpoint, like
Yeah.
it just looks old and lame. I don't know, but like I think the card art this year has been the best it's ever been. But the emptiness of the modes, like that, like there was draft champs, and I remember my first. I think my first time to EA was your first time to EA as well.
Yep.
I remember that my first meeting that we went to, and we got to go to all those different meetings. I tried to go to every single one, and the first one that I went to, they were like, "What do you feel about draft champs?" And I was like, "Either make the rewards worth it, or get rid of it." And they were like, "Okay, okay." Like they heard that, and they were like, "We're gonna get rid of it." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." Like, because then again, you have to think of it from like a player base standpoint. Our player base is so much smaller than all other sports games that you can't fraction it off because then it's even worse, right?
Yeah.
So until we get cross platform, because man, cross platform will there. I don't know if there's a video game out there that will benefit more than NHL, which is why I'm talking any video game that will benefit more than NHL when cross platform happens. And it just sucks because like obviously it's years behind Madden and FIFA. So unless Madden and FIFA get it this year coming up, like I'm actually sad because it means it won't be an NHL for like 2
Yeah.
years probably. I hopefully that's different, but um once that changes and like then you have a lot more freedom because then you can have multiple modes, and if they hit, they hit, and if they don't, it really doesn't matter. So I say this now, and this is like something that I will continue to do in every single game changer meeting now. That there needs to be a BR mode like an MLB in HUT. I think that basically I don't know if you play MLB, but basically you just draft a team. It's draft champs.
Yeah.
And then it's tiered rewards. So if you can go 12-0, and NHL games would be longer because they only do 3 inning games. So it'd be like if you can go 8-0, you'll get a guaranteed master icon. Like it'll be random, but they're so scared this year of making great cards obtainable. And I've said this recently. Like I remember complaining to Nicholas about kind of like on my first tangent to him because me and him have a pretty good working relationship, and I've just been like, it is impossible for a free to play player to indulge in every single event. Like they simply can't. They have to save up for 2 events before they can actually get into an event to get cards because it's just the cost is just insane. So and then they gave away that free one by playing the game, which I think is a little too easy. But then the following event, they were like, "Hey, we'll cut the price in half, but you've got to do all these other things by playing the game," which I
Yeah.
think is a perfect medium. But draft champs, like, I don't know if they would ever do it because you have to make the rewards worth it, or you're just going to be left with what draft champs was, where like no one played it. The only reason people played it was to try and see what the new cards were because they'd be in the drafting early. Because that was the only reason people would play it. But I think that a mode like that would be it's so much more entertaining than Rivals every day because man, New just said it, man. Rivals is just a job. It's like, oh, got 9 to 5, got to go do my Rivals.
Yeah.
Like it's tough. And for someone who plays the game, like I talk so much more and don't play the game nearly as much on my stream, which I kind of enjoy doing. But like, it's exhausting. And when you combine the fact that it's skill based matchmaking, like I don't want to play the best of the. I am older than a lot of the player base in Division One. All right, my thumbs are absolutely rust, so I have to have the most amount of focus to be able to beat. And I will say this: as much as if it's a meme that I'm terrible at this game, I have beaten almost every great player at least one time. I can give them a game from time to time, but if I'm not fully committed to paying attention and zoned in, maybe on G Fuel or whatever, like I'm probably losing. And I
Yeah.
think that that's just exhausting. Like for a normal player, like that's like I said, the guys that go to work and just want to have fun, like man, no one wants to go home and play Boily in Rivals because that's your only opponent. Like it's tough, man. It's tough, and I hope that they make strides to fix that. But I really don't think any of that gets fixed until we have cross-platform. And that scares me because I don't think that's coming for like 2 or 3 years. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's the next thing that like saves and brings it back in and like is like the next like awesome change. Like GWC. Like imagine Hut without GWC. I love GWC time because everyone is just invested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone is in. Imagine there was no GWC. Like it got a little dicey there in December when there was no announcement. Everyone's
Yeah,
like,
no, for sure.
why are we still playing Hut? And I'm just like, yo, guys, I have a job. Can you guys just keep being interested in Hut for like a little bit longer? And right before they announced it, I was like, I don't think it's happening. And then I was just like, whoo, gonna have to start playing some MLB. But no, like, I think things like that, you need a significant change to really bring the player base to get a significant interest and bump in the game again. And I don't think that happens till cross-platform. So
No, I 100% agree with cross-platform being incredibly important. One thing that I do think might make it come faster is the fact that MLB is having it this year, and it kind of makes
yeah,
it might set like an expectation for EA to bring it.
if it works.
If it works, yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is that, you know, I don't know that it would necessarily be something that's a year behind because normally that kind of stuff comes like it's like completely
Universal.
yeah, like
Because
it's something
technology.
that's
It's like
yeah,
a technology.
it's like completely separate from the games itself. It's just like, you know, you
Yeah.
have an account system and then they can link to each other no matter what you're on and
Mhm.
things like that. So I don't it's definitely possible that it would come a year behind just because like that's
Yeah.
how things work.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see EA just like all of a sudden make an announcement and be like, hey, all of our sports games are going to be cross-platform next year or whatever.
I hope so. Like if that's the case, like that's a win that EA needs.
Yeah,
Because
I
if
think so.
MLB, and I'll say this, everyone that is just like MLB is the greatest thing, especially the NHL guys. Like I played MLB. It was my second most played game last year, and when NHL died down after GWC,
Yeah.
I made a dedicated effort to play it and get decent at MLB, so that this year I could create content and know what I'm talking about. And let me tell you, you think gameplay is bad in NHL, man? There is gameplay bugs in every MLB almost that make it the worst, and the content's incredible. Like don't get me wrong, like it is unmatched in any Ultimate Team mode. Like any EA game Ultimate Team mode, it's not even close. But man, when your fielder can't field a pop fly, or your base runner gets stuck, and like when it's so difficult, especially when you're just learning the game, to score runs because you can't hit,
Yep.
like that is the stuff that's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like that's so frustrating. And I think that they're going to a new gen, they're doing cross console, like there is a awful big door for gameplay to be broken yet again, and I hope that doesn't happen. But if it's smooth sailing, and apparently the marketplace is going to work between all all four consoles, like that's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. A
Yeah.
shared marketplace alone makes it like insane, and just a wild improvement among all sports games. So yeah, if it works, EA needs to figure it out, or that's going to be a terrible look. So I think you're right. If there is one thing, like that is more of a technology thing and not like a game mode thing, like Rivals was in FIFA, and now it's in
Yeah.
NHL. I think that yeah, if they can figure out, NHL just needs it. Like there's no other way around it. Like it needs it. The player base is so much smaller, and I don't think that's an EA NHL thing. I think that's a
It's a
hockey
hockey
thing.
thing.
It's just
Yeah.
it's the fourth biggest sport in North America. Like people they want to. I love the people that are like, but Madden does so much. But like obviously Madden and FIFA do better. FIFA's the biggest sport in the world. Like it's just, I think that's a hockey problem. And
Yeah, it's a hockey thing for sure.
yeah,
No, I mean
absolutely.
the game would benefit from it like crazy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just having, I mean, essentially, well, the player base on PlayStation is much bigger already.
Much bigger, yeah.
But essentially doubling it, I guess, or it depends on what platform you're on. For me, I'm on Xbox, so I'm on the smaller one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would benefit from it a lot, and I always thought that I've never asked them about it, and like sometimes they don't really want to get into the nitty gritty about like how it actually these kind of things actually like work in terms of developing them. But I always thought it wouldn't be that bad to put something like that in, because they already have like the Origin account system built into the game. Like when you start it up for the first time, you have to log in. So I don't know, like that's how my non-programmer brain like comes up with it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, no clue. I don't know anything about programming at all, but
it blows me away, and I don't know if it's simply like, because like a lot of people are like, well, they want to make more money by selling to, like, how many people are actually buying both console, like, you know what I mean? Like it's only the pro players really like that.
It's like a
that do that.
very
So
small
it's
percentage
so
that
small.
double
It's
dip. Yeah.
completely insignificant. So I don't know about that, but it'll definitely be interesting, because once they do that, as long as it works, and again, I have no faith that it would work, I'll be honest, but at least it's in there. Like being able to. My biggest thing again, when you get to Division 1 and Rivals, you play the same people.
Yep.
And that's exhausting, especially as a streamer. I can't imagine it's just a normal, like, you know what I mean, just someone who plays the game. But like having Xbox rather, then your player base doubled, and you're not playing the same 5 people over and over again.
Yeah, no, for sure. But well, you've already talked a bunch about how, even though I haven't actually asked a single question about it.
Sorry, just automatically goes back there.
You're good. It's been it's nice that you're just rambling, because you get a lot out of it. So current game modes: Rivals, Champs, and Rush. You mentioned that we're missing a BR. I've always said that Draft Champ should be integrated in like a CS or something, not knowing how BR actually works, but like
you want to have a CS debate?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Yo, so this is gonna be another flaming take from me. All right. I don't think I do not think adding a comp season in what they were would benefit the game to what everyone is thinking. So the reason why I say this, I'll bring this up because this is insider info. Restrictive comp seasons don't work, and that is simply because people do not play them.
Correct.
Which is going to be like, oh, what are you talking about? So when they did that silver player CS, which is just, when you think back to it, like, my god, that was the worst gameplay.
It's
like,
horrible.
You know what I mean? Like,
so
it's
bad.
Not, like, that is not fun at all, by the way.
No.
But the amount of people that actually went and built a team, because when that happens, the first thing that goes is the market. You're gated on every single one. Like, you know what I mean? The top end silver card that has 2 to distributor and whatever. Like, those cards go to 40, 50K.
Yeah.
And people can barely afford to make a normal lineup, not necessarily like a silver lineup too. And that would happen with anything. If you made it like all European players, same thing would happen in the market. You would see the players go up to an insane amount. And there was just so few people that actually took the time to play that. And when you think about the resources that NHL has, it's just so small. And that means if they're developing the code to make that comp season happen, because it's not just like they flip a switch and there's a comp season on. That's not how it works.
Right.
To put it into the game, right? That means that they took 2 weeks from trying to develop a new gameplay feature that would be in NHL 22 or something like that. So I don't think comp seasons fixes the issue because, again, I think that separates the player base. What I think is there needs to be a drastic change to how Rivals Rewards works. I think that you need guaranteed rewards because unless you are among the top 0.1% in the entire game, you are not guaranteed one reward throughout the week. I've done a few weeks at the beginning of the year where I finished top 100 squad battle, top 100, which is luck based, which still
Yeah.
makes no sense to me. I've done ultimate and rivals, and this was when I was bad at the game. I got like 13 wins in champs. So all of that, and I do it for a living, so I'm playing like 6 hours a day, and I did not get anyone of value. Like now I got a ton of gold players that could turn into gold collectibles and whatever. But the fact that you could do all of that and it is all coming down to luck in packs is a joke. Like that is one of the biggest problems in HUT and why it is so stale because you are not guaranteed a reward. Everyone wants comp seasons, and the first thing that you say is that the top 100 got a card. So if you implemented that and you made rivals instead of 1 week, which is just an insane grind, 2 weeks long, and instead of an ultimate division, there's a top 200, and you are guaranteed a card throughout the top 200. And then as you go down, you're getting packs and rewards. That is essentially what comp seasons was. Now, the only other thing is that people are going to be like, yeah, but comp seasons is way easier because I don't have to play Division 1 rivals and you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
the players. But if it's the same for every like that's the one workaround of that I'm not really sure on how it would be, but I think that there is a way to implement that because I think that comp seasons people they're again, so like a rivals game needs to matter. And also on top of that, I think the thing about comp seasons is that there is a leaderboard. I remember loading up NHL 21 in the alpha when we got it in like May or whatever. And
Yeah.
the first thing I said when I went into HUT was like, where's the leaderboard? Well, for what? Like, how, when you do well in the game, how do you know you're doing well? Like, that's a joke that in Rivals, your only competitive game mode outside of Hockey Ultimate Team, you have no idea how you're doing. And all that is required is for you to play enough to get inside a percentage, not even a ranked range. So it's not like you're in the top 250 for hitting ultimate. You're just in a range of the top 15%. You have no idea like what rank you are actually there. That is a joke to me. Like that needs to be in there. I don't know if that's just laziness or lack of understanding, but that is one of my biggest takes on EA's misses this year in NHL is that a leaderboard, which sounds so insignificant, just adds so much more to a rivals game. Like if I'm going up and I play someone who's really good at the top of the leaderboard, that win means so much more than, plus 12 CR. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
That's just tough. Like the people out there should be rewarded. I think that again comes back to the there's no guaranteed rewards other than top 20 and HUT champs, which HUT champs rewards is an absolute disaster as well. But at least with a leaderboard, there's a flex there. There's something to chase. There's a indicator of if you are improving or not. And I think that's one of the bigger things. But comp seasons, again, I think the reason why people enjoyed it was because it was easier. It wasn't win based, so that if you had one L, it didn't eliminate you.
Yep.
Which I think is something nice as well. And if they are going to add comp seasons in, I'm okay with that. But I think that there is a way to make rivals amazing if they make the rewards correct, and then that would essentially be like weekly comp seasons. But it's again, I think it's scary because if they add in another mode, then the player base is fractured again, and it didn't matter in the first 2 months. But if it's like March and you add in like yet another mode to go into, you guys have to think about that. Like that means Rivals is dead. So only 5 people are playing Nippin' Biscuits on his 8 accounts. Like that's all you're playing. And then like comp seasons, when you ask why people want comp seasons, it's just guaranteed rewards. So add weekly guaranteed rewards in Rivals and make it so like that is the case for everything. I think HUT Rush should have something too.
Yeah, I
It
think
doesn't have to be an amazing card.
Yeah, from what I hear, it's the two things. It's guaranteed rewards. Well, actually, three things. Guaranteed rewards, like actually being involved in the events that are happening right now,
Yep.
and then not always having to play incredibly hard games every single game. Those are like
Mm-hmm.
the three things that people liked about CS that they don't like about Rivals. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess piggybacking off of that, how do you feel about the events right now? And how Rivals is like all the gameplay is essentially completely separate from it, and like the events, like from what I hear from people is that events don't feel like events. They just feel like uh another week with new cards.
That is kind of what they are. And again, so this I have super like in-depth back-end knowledge because I talk to Nicholas probably like once a week. Like we do like an hour phone call of just like EA, like how events are going and ideas and things like that. And so if you think back to like NHL 18, this is before Nicholas became the content developer, and
Yeah.
like how busted those events were because it would be like you would get a new type of collectible, and that's just like such a money grab. And then they tried to stabilize the economy in 19 and 20, which I think they really did. But now I think that the economy is too stable and they're too scared to release good cards and ways to get cards. So I will say this. I think there has been events in the last 2 months that have missed so hard, that have been awful. We're literally going through it right now. The All-Star event has been an absolute disaster. The cost to get these cards is just insane, and I don't understand how it's calculated because it's not fun. You can't make these cards, which means you're just trying to buy them,
Mm-hmm.
which then goes back to the fact that you're just hoping you get a good tradable pull.
Right.
So like you're all like, it's just an absolute mess. But if you go back and think, like, I know you haven't been super into HUT this year, but every event they've literally been trying new stuff, and I am all for them trying new stuff because at least they're trying. Saying the same is a mess. And the first 3 months of the game, that was what you kind of heard, is that events are just cookie cutter, and they were for the most part. So they actually made it so I think in the end, someone said this in the chat about how bring back moments from old gen. I have been saying that for like since I became a game changer in 2018. Like
Yep.
if you could make offline challenges, that's the thing about MLB that's so amazing. It's like if I want this David Ortiz card, okay, you have to go and complete on All Star. You have to hit a grand slam in the 2013 All ALCS. If you strike out, you have to restart the moment again. I use the Sam Gagne 8-point game as my example all the time. So, like, if you want to get this done, you need to score 8 points on rookie with Sam Gagne. Like, that's how offline challenges should be. But the amount of time is just simply not there. Like, that cannot be done because EA's development team is just too small to do that. So, I think, like, just touching on that real quick, but the events themselves, the blockbuster one where it was like you trade in all these gold collectibles and you get two versions of the master item. I think that was a unique idea because it allowed you to not be stuck in synergy prison because it gave you multiple options. I
Yeah.
think that's cool. I think I liked that idea. But the one I really liked again is, so the NHL moments one was you get a free master item by playing the game. You had to
Yep.
do quite a few things. Now, obviously, there's a few people that burn through it in like a day and they're playing squad battles on rookie mode. And like it's just whatever. There's always going to be like that. I think they need to not be scared, or they need to not be scared of the people that rush through, because that is such a small fraction of the player base that like people want the ability to, in 3 weeks down the road when they actually have time, again, they work all the time, to be able to earn a card by playing the game. Now, I think the ways that you can earn those, like getting those objectives done, because all that they can do right now is like score 400 goals, which is just super basic. And while it allows you to actually be rewarded eventually by doing certain things in game, which is cool, I think what needs to happen is it's like, say you get an 85 or 87 version, depending on the time that this event is released, of all of the master items. And anytime that you score a goal with one of those cards, that counts. Now, just drastically lower the goal requirement.
Yeah.
That, like, certain specific things is how it should be. But again, the development requirement for that, from my understanding, is just not there in NHL right now. Now, hopefully, when they go to next gen, they can do things with player based specific upgrades. Do you remember, was it NHL 19 where they first released the milestones, where it was like score 700 2,000 goals and
Yeah,
you get
I
you
think
get
so.
Gartner,
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
Yeah. Like that was amazing. But what
Mhm.
it should have been is score 100 goals, you get the 81 overall Mike Gartner. Now you have to score with Mike Gartner 50 more times to get the next one. That is
Yeah.
how it should go, because then you're engaging yourself in that specific player. And you have, when you get to the end, there's just so few flex cards in the game. Unless you just absolutely burn your mom's credit card. Like, there's so few cards that are like, I have this card, I scored with him. You're gonna watch that replay because there's like 100 people in the world that have this. Like Jerome
Yeah.
McGinley and Taves. I thought that what they did with Team Builder should be there the whole game, because that drastically changes the market throughout. You know how much at the launch of the game, if you could get a 90, it's hard because a 99 in NHL is so much more impactful than a 99 in MLB. Like, there's a 99 overall pitcher day one that will be readily available, but if you
Yeah.
can't lay off a changeup or handle a high end fastball, it will not matter. Like, it really doesn't give you a significant advantage. It obviously helps you, but in NHL, a 99 overall player that someone can get in like October. But again, if it requires all the base cards, think of how great opening packs would be from the beginning of the game if every base card mattered. You know what I mean? Like, every base card matters, because at least early on you're working towards that Taves and Gambler. And of course, there's going to be guys that have all 3 weeks into the game. But I think that it would just be such a small amount that it won't really impact anything. And at the end of the day, like, Hut Champs is Hut Champs, and you have to think about the mode you're playing. It's an ultimate team mode. Yeah, there's people that spend an insane amount of money at the game, but how are they any different than people that play 12 hours a day? Like, you either value time or you value money.
Yeah.
So if someone does not have a lot of time, so they have a lot of money instead to make up for that, that's fine. Like, I cannot understand that argument. Like, I don't have a lot of time. Amazingly enough, I don't have a lot of time. I can't play squad battles because I would absolutely just go insane.
Yep.
But I only have like 4 hours a day to play NHL, and basically it's just rivals so that I can get ultimate or diamond, because I can't get ultimate even, which is amazing to me. So I spend money on the game, and it's also, people want to see like the best team, so it's kind of an investment for me. But yeah, like, there needs to be ways that you can, earn cards, through that kind of stuff. So objectives that are related to a specific card is the goal I want to see as soon as possible, because I think what they did with the fantasy sets this year, which again, I think they did an incredible job with the Couturier and the Makar and
Yeah.
whatnot, how they upgrade at their own pace, essentially. I think that was incredible, because that was not how it was intended. For anyone that doesn't know, master items are made in August or before the game is shipped. They're in the game. They require an in-game patch to put them in. That's why they're all in the game prior.
Yep.
So they had all that. That event was meant for like 2 weeks into the season, but the season got delayed till January, which they weren't planning for. So they're like, okay, we'll do this. We'll give out the 4, and we already have the card art in there for all of them, because in case they scored in October, they would go up. So they just did it like that. And I hope that's in the game every single year from launch, because free to play players being able to get those 4 cards at their own pace is just super advantageous. You don't like the event? Okay, throw your cards into Makar. But those cards upgrading, it needs to be specific to what that card is. So if your Kale Makar, get 40 assists to get the 86 version with that card. And again, obviously there are going to be guys that just go try and match up with their buddy and pull their goalie. That's fine. Like, that is such a small amount of people that will do that. And unless there's something game breaking that they can glitch to so that everyone does it,
Yeah.
it really won't impact the game negatively. And I think that once objectives are in the game, it'll make events so much better. But yeah, like I said, going back to the earlier, is just like, they've been trying so many different new things, and again, some of them have been really nice, like the Moments one. I think that the Moments event was one of the best events in the last like 3 games, because it was, you can't give away a free master item every event. You can't, because they
No.
literally did that in NHL 19, where every month, or NHL 18, every month it was like, oh my god, EA is giving away a legend every single month.
Yeah.
3 months down the line, everyone has the same team. This game
Exact
sucks.
same
Like, you
team,
can't,
yeah.
like, you can't do that, right? It's like, you can't give away a card every single event. So again, I think critically, and not just like, oh my god, I want the best possible thing. You have to think of the negatives that will come with that. So what the NHL Moments event, I think, was perfect, where it was like, we'll cut the price in half, which makes it much more accessible. So if you play the game, you'll have an ability to make a master item for half the cost, and it allows many more people to actually take place in events. And I think that's what I hope to see more of in 20. This All-Star event has been awful. Like, the 25 gold collectibles for a card, I don't care what stage of the game we're at. like is just an absolute mess. That's over 2 mil or a mil in coins. Like think of
Mhm.
just the random Andy that just you know, how are they even gonna ever get 1 million in coins in the lifespan of the game? Like it's
Nah.
just it's
It's
tough. It's tough.
crazy. Yeah, no, I very well said on all that. One thing that I do want to talk a little bit more about, I asked this to Thrash as well because we talked a little bit about the team building sets and the taves that they drop just randomly, and I wonder, how what they're gonna do next year if they have those because we didn't know that anything was gonna come out of that. We just thought like, okay, you pour some random gold players, you get a card that might be useful for the first month, which they weren't because like most like 30 of them
The
sucked.
James Neal card was great. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and
there
I
was
think
yeah.
the one on Pittsburgh was good. People
Oh,
liked.
Murphy, yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then like pretty much all the other ones were terrible. Um,
Yep.
so most people didn't really make them, or maybe they just had like for me I had like I think I made like the Carolina guy. I had like
Yep.
most of them, and so I just bought like two players and then I got like a couple free packs out of it, and that was
Yep.
it. I never used the player.
Mhm.
And then a few months later, all of a sudden, oh, by the way, if you made all these you can have a 98 taves, and everyone's like, well, what the hell.
Yeah.
So when I asked it Thrash, I was like, well, I wonder what they're gonna do next year because if they have these team building sets and they don't have an ultimate objective for them, like a 98 overall player, then they've set a precedent now of, hey, halfway through the year, we're gonna give a 98 player if you've made all these. So I think it's a really interesting thing to think about because what if if they don't want that card to be accessible at the beginning, then they're not communicating that it's going to be out at any point. But people are going to assume that it's going to be. So then, what do you do with that?
So the one thing that I can promise Nick and the new Hut team, they hate predictability.
Yes,
Which you're
100%.
like they cannot stand it. So anything that happens this year, I would never bank on it. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone expecting any old master item to be used in a future event, everyone is just sitting there, and then when it doesn't happen, they're like, "Oh my god, why didn't they do that?" Like they never said that. Just because it happened in old games does not mean that it should be. Because then what you get is, everyone price locking cards before it comes out.
Yep.
So while it isn't frustrating in some senses, but the team builder sets, like I said, so back I think I remember the Aginla and the Yager, the 99s, the
Mm-hmm.
available. It's very difficult in NHL because, like I mentioned earlier, the impact of a 99 player in Huts compared to all the other Ultimate Team modes is just so much more substantial. Because if you shoot on a base goaltender with a 99 overall player, like that's tough. Like that is probably going to go in. Now, what they could do is announce how team builders would work. So a way around that would be if you make all the team builders, okay, you get the cards that launched in and you start building them, the 85s are available. And they do, I mean, MLB does this, like, but again, MLB is different because one player is not nearly as impactful. If
Mm-hmm.
you're getting a 99 overall hitter that only comes up once every 9 at bats, right? So like it's far different, but MLB allows multiple 99s at the beginning of the game, and the only way to acquire them is by collecting all of the players, and then you get a division or you get a team icon, and then you trade in those team icons for each division. You get a division icon, and then you get a league icon, and then you finally get Mickey Mantle when you collect them all.
Right.
I think that there should be something like that because it is a chase, and it impacts the value of base cards. And I think something that is, if they are not going to make live series cards, and by live series I mean they are like evos that work throughout in
Yeah, and they
conjunction
can
with the real
go
NHL.
down
So
too, right?
that is just not going to happen in NHL. I can guarantee you that, just because unless their development team becomes so much higher or more, there's so much more developers that just won't happen. So the alternative would be, okay, how do you make your base cards valuable past the second week of the game? And it would be to have team builder sets. But if you come out and say, hey, on December 1st, the division guys will become available. So if you trade in, let's say at the beginning of the year, if this is already known, okay, and then
Yeah.
on December 1st, you can trade in all of each division. So people they know it's coming. So they save up the Pacific Division, okay? They get all of the team builder sets, the Pacific Division, because they know on December 4th, a 90 or a 91 Patrick Marleau is going to be available, and there's one for each division. Okay. Now, once you then on February 1st, they announced that there is a conference team builder that is going to be announced. That's a 95 overall, and you need the 3 divisions for each, or the 2 divisions from
Mhm.
each one to make the conference one. And then April comes around and you can get, the 99 or whatever of it. And if they did that, at least it's transparent. They know it's coming. It's not going to be a surprise random drop,
Yeah.
which heavily impacts the market. It keeps base cards like of use the entire way through, and it gives people something to chase. I said this is before the team builder sets. There was nothing for guys like me and Henrique to chase. Like there was no card that you could have that is like, wow, that's it, other than Hut Champs cards, which again goes back to the fact that only 20 people every week can get a nice card.
Yep.
That is like, man, when I score without a Ginla, you're gonna watch that. Like that is a something that I like worked really hard for, spent a lot of money, and I was able to get that card. And like that's I think they need more of, and I think that would be a really easy way to, until they go the live series route, which they just can't, would be a way to fix that.
Interesting. No, I like
Do you
the
agree?
idea.
Do you agree with
No,
that?
I do agree. I don't like how they did the current ones. I mean,
No, I think they
simply
were just
put,
trying.
I
They were just
don't
trying new
like
stuff.
having sets where they cost a lot and you get nothing of value out of it. Like that's how I break it down in my mind. So
Yeah.
like anything that makes it better and more worth doing, like to me, having that content in the game, it's useless to me. Like I look at that set on day one, not knowing that anything is going to come later, and I'm like, this shouldn't be here. This is just clutter in my Hockey Ultimate team. This is another thing that I have to scroll past when I'm trying to actually get to the stuff that I want to make. So yeah, I do agree.
I see
I
what you're
agree
saying. Yeah, the team
wholeheartedly.
builders, they were empty after that second week of the game, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
agree.
mean, like I said, the only reason that I wanted to do it was like there was the Murphy, and I was like, this could be a good card. I never ended up doing it because those base cards were actually rather expensive, and I just didn't happen to
That was
have.
because they got
Yeah,
that's
and I
right.
just
Yeah.
didn't happen to have a lot of the Penguins, so I never ended up doing it. But so the only reason I did them is because I literally had like all but like 2 Carolina Hurricanes players just like randomly, and I think like there was
Yep.
another one that I did too, but I was never gonna use. I was never gonna use any of those cards. Like there was just no chance, and that's at the beginning of the game. First couple weeks where we you don't have that great of a team. I mean, maybe you did because but I don't spend money on it. So
I the one thing I will say is because this argument always comes back whenever I say these are useless cards, no one's going to use them.
yeah,
Is that I think that we forget that there's people out there that just want like Patrick Marleau because he was a Shark.
yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
Like, and I think that we don't think about that enough, but there has to be. This is a whole other topic, and I don't know if we have time for it, but like synergies should be craftable. You should be able to put what you on certain cards. You can't put Speedster on a 9-foot guy. But like again, I'm super going over. But if there should be a way to make the card that you want valuable, like I think that there isn't nearly enough of that because if Marleau doesn't come out with over 90 speed and howitzer and distributor, like I can't use him.
Right.
If I want to be half decent at the game.
Yeah.
If I want to give myself the best chance. And I think that has got to do away with it. And I think that the synergy problem is just there. Like it's like synergies need to be a little bit more reworked. I think that was good when they separated all the speed and whatnot, but like man, they need a way. I've said a crafting system for synergies would be really cool. But again, it's very difficult in NHL because skating will always rain out, and not having any skating synergies would just mean that like anyone slow is just completely unusable, even if they're big. And like that can't happen either. It's such a battle. Like it's something that I know that Nick and Ben try and deal with all the time. And again, that isn't an EA NHL problem. That's just a hockey problem. Like faster is always going to be better.
Yeah, and I mean they tried to fix it like by doing the scaling thing with the 0.5 upgrades, but it just ends up. It wasn't bad. It's not bad, but it ends up being like you get to the same point eventually anyway.
It's close.
It
Yeah, like
change.
Dougie Hamilton with 92 speed, I will take with 6'6" over any. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't really change anything fundamentally about the game, but it just helps with like better scaling, so that it essentially delays the problem. That's what it does.
Yep, I agree.
I don't know how much time you have. I don't want to go over.
I'm good. If you got some other questions, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like honestly talk so much about everything, and like there's still
I
so
know,
many
dude.
there's
I
still so many more
ramble.
things.
I love talking.
I might have to just plan another one with you. But since you mentioned it, synergies. So for
Yeah.
me, my problem with synergies is that, you know, we just said how a few years ago when the game gave you specific cards, everybody's team ended up being exactly the same, with
Yep.
everybody just had all the legends and that was your team.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think Synergies does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because like when you have speed synergies, acceleration ones that affect your whole team, then everybody just builds those, right? I mean, there's Junior Pens who says that you should just have barrage and nothing else, but like that's a small portion of the community. So you know, I want that to be changed. I want there to be something that makes it so that I can build my team, have synergies, chemistry, whatever system there is, and like, benefit from participating in that, but also not make it so that everybody wants the same
I don't
cards.
I don't know how in an ultimate specifically how hockey is played that you ever truly solve that because there will always be a meta. And
Mm-hmm.
once Eki says that to reign true or even I will even if myself I said Justice Noonan is the best goalie in the world and he shot
Yeah.
up like 400K. Like, you know what I mean? Like so like once one or two of us say like, "Hey, here's the perfect team build." That's what's going to end up happening. But there needs to be, I agree with you, there needs to be a way that I use my favorite players and I can make them. And again, like I said, a synergy crafting system in which, like, it's tough because you can be like, let's say you could only put Speedster on 3 cards in your lineup, or anyone that's over 6'3" or 6'2" can have Speedster, or there's
Mm.
just no skating synergies at all. But then we get into that dangerous part of because like you get like the Chris Pronger problem where like it's a good card, but like 83 speed, like 86 at most is still extremely tough. Like so Merge just said the training thing, like in Madden where like you put training points on him, he just upgrades everything. That
Mm.
essentially makes every card like the fantasy card. I'm not opposed to that. What I like it's just like I don't know how it would be done. I think that something needs to be done. But the way NHL works is just so much different than every sports game. Like it's just extremely tough. Like there's no way to fix it because skating will always reign out, no matter what. Skating will always be the most important, and I don't know how. The only thing that saves some big players now because they did the scaling thing, which I thought was great, is the fact that they get howitzer or speedster, and that makes
Yeah.
them okay. They can get 89 speed in March, which is like okay, all
Yeah.
right, there you go. Um, everyone talks about Elo and Movember
Oh,
cards.
dude, I
Like,
hated Evo and
God,
Remember
I hate
cards. I
them. I
just
hate them
hated them so
so
much.
much. I hate them so much. I don't understand the community and why they want them. I
I
don't know if
hated
it's just
them
because
so
the
much.
game
I think it's
where they
because
can't.
you know what it is? It's because it made it easy. All you had to
It
do
did.
was buy
Yeah.
this card, and you never had to
Yep.
do anything else. You just
Yep.
had the
And
best
it was in the
card
beginning of
now.
the year.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
that was
like
it.
that's why you enjoyed it because you didn't have to grind it all. Like you
Yeah,
got like 3 Evo cards and it's
it
like
was
bang, there
just
you are
easy.
November
And
cards with
then
it.
it got even worse because I don't remember what I think it was either 18 or 19. The CS like top
Mhm.
250 or whatever, you would just get a
Oh god,
free
an
Evo
Evo
card.
card.
You
Oh, they
could
just
just
gave out Evo
and
cards like
then the
Oprah,
whole
just throwing
and
them
then it
out
was the
there. Like,
same thing. Everybody's team that you played in CS was just flat Evo cards, nothing else. Because you would just get
just
free
yeah.
Evo cards from playing CS. Oh my god, it was the worst thing that honestly
I
that was
don't
like the
think
worst thing they've ever done.
I don't think we'll ever see Evo cards again because I know Nicholas is not like them. I am fully behind the fantasy event. Anything that ties in the real sport to this.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Like last year, my favorite card the entire time was the Master Set Brady Kachuk, and I could not use him for like 2 months because I had like a full icon team like a month in, and he didn't score enough. But I'll tell you this: I watched a lot of Ottawa Senator games, and like that's
Right.
insane. Just only because I'm like, oh, I want to see maybe Brady will score. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything that does that, I think is incredible. So the fantasy event, if it is now, obviously this year it was scuffed because the COVID and whatnot. So like that's
Yeah.
extremely difficult. But I think that event is fantastic. But the Evos, man, like what I think should happen is I think that if a card receives a team of the week and you get that team of the week card, like you should be able to upgrade your base card.
Yeah, and that's
Or
an
like I
interesting.
don't know something like team of the week in prime times mean nothing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic actually because I've never figured out or thought of a way to fix those. But like they're not
To
really
make them what
worth
matter?
much. Yeah, to make them matter
No.
because they're not worth much and like they're hard to find because like they're only out for like that much and then like
They're
they're hard to
basically
sell then because like you have to find somebody who's looking
sell
for
them
this
immediately.
specific card. Like
Yep.
if you actually end up wanting to get it for like Synergy or whatever, then like you know they're hard to get rid of. They're just I don't know, they don't matter.
Yeah, I agree. Like I don't think they matter at all. I've been a big proponent of so again something they changed with the content this year was or you know as the events have gone on is they stopped releasing like 12 event cards every Monday and Friday and they went to this formula where it was like they focused on specific events that made sense twice a week. So you'd only get like 3 new cards, and they're way too hard to get because they were like prime times. They're only available for a day, which was dumb. They
Yeah.
should be available the whole event once they are out. But what I realized is that like that makes Team of the Week a little bit more a little more interesting because those cards are there the whole week. And you know, at least it matters. But right now, the only reason that people pay attention to Team of the Week is like, oh my god, did Hedman get an upgrade? Like your Team of the Year cards. Like there needs to be a way if you have the base card or the prior version of it to upgrade if he gets a team of the week to that. Like there needs to be a way, and you know, I think that would heavily impact prime times and actual real life performance and being exciting by it. Because if you got to, maybe it costs a gold collectible. Maybe you know what I mean. Maybe it costs 2, and your base card, your Tavares bags it, but he's such a bad HUT card. Like Matthews scores, and he gets a prime time, and you have the base Matthews at the beginning of the game. Like knowing that with 2 more gold collectibles, like that's 100K in value, but you already have the Matthews, which is going to cost more because people know that you could upgrade them as they go.
Yeah.
Then pulling a team of the week is like, okay, now I got a decision to make. Do I upgrade my Jared Spurgeon by 1 because I packed them, or like, do I? You know what I mean? I think that would really increase things and make it a lot more interesting. And all it would do is like, you would take the base card, trade in the 2 gold collectibles, and you would just get like an untradeable version of the team of the week card. So it's not like you have to come up with new card art or anything. You would just get that team of the week card. Another thing would be, I know that Saad has said this specifically quite a bit. HUT champs, if you finish at a certain range, top 500, get a team of the week pack. Like get a team of the week pack so that you can, you know, choose. If you get top 100, allow people to, you know, get a 5 random team of the week cards get put in there. And if you get the 90 or whatever it is, then good for you. That's lucky. If you get the bottom 2 lines, that sucks. But like, again, there just needs to be more to it. It needs to be more excitement because there really isn't. It's just there. It just seems to be what NHL is. It's like, okay, this stuff won't be entertaining, but there's just so much of it that they can't complain that nothing's there. So it's just like, just take all these cards, just take them all. You'll never use them, and you'll never even know they're in the game. But here, we release stuff, so you can't complain.
Yeah, that reminds me of the alumni cards. I remember at the beginning of the year, I would you'd open packs from like whatever squad battles, rivals, and like it kind of baited me. Like I would think I wouldn't really pay attention to like the purple or anything. I would just see like the black card, and I was like, oh my god, like I got something, and it's just like an 80 overall alumni, and I'm like, why is this in the game?
Unusable. It's in the yeah.
But I guess on that HUT champs topic, so like for me, I mean, I play the game once a week, so like I'm not really the hardcore HUT player that I used to be, but I do pay attention quite a bit, and I do know that right now with the current state of packs and the current state of the rewards, I don't really see why anybody who like can't get top 20 even plays HUT champs.
If you can't, I tell people this all the time, and it kind of sucks because like my viewer base, my demographic, especially on YouTube, is like majority are probably below Div 2.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I say stuff, people are like don't understand like why I'm telling them stuff, and the reason being is like my demographic is just much different. I'm much bigger on YouTube than I am on Twitch. So that being said, like I tell people if you can't get top 500, don't waste your time. Play rivals because you get full rivals points. So like you know what I mean? Like you'll have a chance at getting ultimate, which is far better than getting 1100th in HUT champs. But again, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. You need to be the top 200 should probably get a guaranteed card. Something like you can't and not to mention with how scuffed the region-based stuff is with servers. Like I literally went out and bought a router so that I didn't have to play QC on QC ping, which is like a whole other thing because people think I'm just avoiding Quebec players. I got to Division 1 playing Quebec players. I have no problem playing them. I have a problem playing the kids that are cracked out in Quebec on 2 ping when I'm on 20.
Yeah.
That I think is just people just seem to want to ignore that. I'm just like, no, like you should not get an advantage based on where you live. So I literally just went out and bought a Nighthawk, and I'll play people on the same ping I'm supposed to play on, right? Which is like a joke in itself. But so I play Central and East. It is obviously far easier for me to get 15 or 16 wins, which is what I basically get every week now, than it was to get 13 wins when I would play the great Quebec players on a significant ping. Like 20 ping is a lot. Like 18,
Yeah.
that's enough, especially when they're basically playing on LAN.
I don't even know what 2 ping would even feel. I play on like 40 because I live in Florida. So yeah.
Exactly. When I ping QC, I get 20, 22. Which sucks because that's my closest server, but they get 2 and I get 20. And then if I ping Central, I get 30 and Central players get 30 to 40. So it's just like, obviously I would just much rather play that, but Central obviously has a much smaller player base.
Mm-hmm.
So, like people have a much easier time getting 19 wins with Central. And because they're not playing anyone good, their points are lower and you can go 19-1 and not even get top 10. Like it's crazy to me how scuffed the system is because of the server situation. So it needs to be wins, tiered wins. Like it does not matter how many people get 20 wins. You should get the 95 overall card. If you
the arbitrary points thing is just absurd. Like the fact that in theory 21 players could get 20 wins and like somebody is just if that happened to me, like I would uninstall.
Yep. Like it's tough, man. Like there's been multiple weeks, I think like 3 weeks this year, that people have gotten 20-0 and not gotten top 5.
Yeah.
Like that's especially on PlayStation it would be worse on PlayStation because there's such a big EU, which they need a separate bracket. But that's a whole other thing because like they take up like half of the player base, half of the leaderboard, but their depth of competition is so much less. Not because EUs are bad. There's just
less of them.
Far less people available to play the game, right? Like
simply put,
yeah. On Xbox, like if you like Eki literally switched consoles because there's no one competitively on Xbox in EU. So like he's gonna go 20-0 every single week. And if he doesn't, it is going to be some insane magical loss, like a disconnect. Like it won't happen, and like that's a big flaw. So if that's still going to be in place, like there needs to be change and tier-based rewards based on how many wins you get. Again, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier: is that they're just terrified to give out good cards. They're terrified to give out good cards, not because they're greedy, but because they don't want the market to be ruined. But I think they need to loosen the reins a little bit.
Yeah, so when I talked to Thrash, who, all the guy does is open packs.
It's insane.
But he was talking, so, I asked him, do you think they should be better? And he's like, probably not. Like, and I asked the same thing to Nuge, and he was like, probably not, because when you give people good cards in all these packs, then, like, it just ruins the market, and they make them, like, not valuable. But, so, I'll get your take on that in a second, but one thing that he suggested was, that you guarantee a certain overall in the packs instead. Whereas, like, if you get top 500 in Hot Jams, instead of getting just these packs that you might not even get an 83 in, you could get, like, one guaranteed 86 plus or something like that.
Like a topper.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that map. I think what would completely fix this is a trade-in set where if you trade in 285s, you'll get an 86. Trade in 286s, you get an 87. Like that kind of stuff. I think packs are absolute joke. Like I have spent over $2,000 in this game this year, and like having spent that, the only reason I have my team is because I sold all my gold players. Like if you have a pack that costs $25, which is like 1/3 of the cost of the game, give a pull, like give something. Like it is insane to pull a good card. I honestly think that while everyone would have better teams, like if packs are going to be the only way that people can get a better team, because you're not giving out guaranteed rewards.
Yeah.
Make the packs better. Like loosen it up a little bit. Like it's in MLB, again, I'm going to always compare MLB. If you buy 50 packs, it is so rare because the odds aren't like 10%. It's like literally 1 in 50. It says it on the thing.
Yeah.
You will buy 50 packs. It is extremely rare to not get a diamond in there somewhere. Now, a diamond could not be good, but it's a live series card, so that changes everything.
Yeah.
But it's brutal. And again, like if you're, I said this to Nicholas the other day. I'm like, I'm at a point now where give me the $100 Timu Solani pack. Like I would rather have that and no. Do you remember that? That was
I remember that.
I would take that over what we have now any day.
Oh man.
Because I know what I'm getting and I did it twice.
No, of course you did.
Yeah, 100%. But
there was that was like
it is a scam. 100% words. 100% it's a scam. But are you telling me that if I go and rip $120 in packs that I'm not just going to pull a base Vasilevsky? And then what? What are the odds of me actually pulling something that is worth $100?
Yeah.
Like even the amount of cards, I would get what, like 3.5 collectibles? Like
no, it's true. Yeah,
it's brutal. It's brutal. Give me the $100, man.
No, I mean, that's the problem is that like, and the Rivals rewards don't change either. Like they're the same as they were in October. So like you're getting the same odds to pull the same players, yet everybody's team is like
every month you should add an ultimate pack down. Like literally every month of the game, add another ultimate pack to every single layer. Because then if you get ultimate, like if you get ultimate Div 1 in like March, okay, you're getting 6 ultimate packs. Like, okay. All right, that's worth it. I will sit and grind to get Division 1. Like, and then if someone can't, they get gold. If you get gold, like, oh man, like like a jumbo pack where I get like 10 or 20 gold players and 10 of them are guaranteed to be above 80 plus. In like March, it's like, dude, I played like 12 games or 15 games in a week. Like again, people have jobs. Like it's just useless.
It's
so, like,
basically
if
a
they
waste
get an
of time
ultimate
at this
pack.
point.
Exactly. Like I said, yeah. Like Henry gets stressed out and has to play off of stream to get ultimate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we do it for a living. Like, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like, so, we've determined that, okay, if you could only get gold or maybe even diamond sometimes, it's a waste of time for you to play Rivals. What else are you going to play?
Yeah, that's another thing. That's why they need BR.
Yeah, there's nothing else for you to do if that's all that there is for you to do. Because like,
I mean, even last year, people complained that like there was stuff to do last year. Like, no, there wasn't. There was just the ability to go play online seasons, which that didn't offer a reward. It was just something to do until like it was awful. Like the only reason you went and played Rivals is because you wanted to beat up on people. That was the only reason. And if you don't want to admit that, then you're just lying. Like, you know what I mean? Like I liked playing easier players. Like. I don't like having to play the same sweaty kids that stream snipe me all the time. Like that's not fun. Like it's tough, but
I just wanted to Pens, we already talked about how bad Silver Rivals was. That was like an hour ago. It was terrible gameplay. Nobody liked it. Nobody enjoyed. Maybe you did, but you have some just flaming takes on this game.
They're absolutely brutal now, and I don't hold any punches now. When I see a bad Junior Pens take, I literally text him like, dude, you're being an idiot. That's awful. I don't want the player base to know that. Don't. Stop it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. There's a lot of things wrong with Rivals. It's funny because I remember when I read about Rivals for the first time, and I never played FIFA, and they, made that post about it, and I read it, and I was like, this is sick. Like, this is going to be so great. And man, how much of a 180.
Well, it's because the online season was all we had. And
yeah,
when you think back, like, online season was awful.
Like, yeah, we had it was all at the time.
Oh, yes, that too.
Yeah.
But, like, Rivals is what online season should have been. It just, online season did not work correctly. You did not get matched against your player base. You got matched against whoever was available because they just widened the range because no one plays the game.
Yeah.
2 months in, you just played way easier players. Rivals forces you to play the player that, and again, that just goes back to what I said like the first 5 minutes into this is like, no one wants to lose. No one wants to lose in a video game. Like, that's just a bad experience all the way around. But
Yeah. No, you know, I, it's just like I think that's one of the reasons, honestly, why I don't play so much anymore is because of that daily grind of I don't, when I played CS, which to be honest with you, like me personally, I have lost like all my competitive drive in video games in over the last like 2 years. I am the most casual video game player at this point in my life, which I am 21 years old, so you know.
I will actually say this, like you're probably like I think that everyone goes through the out of video games phase in life, like right around like near the end of
No,
college. Like I remember when I
to
was in
be
college,
honest, to
I
be
didn't
honest,
play like any games.
I play games all the time. I just don't play. I don't play leaderboard games anymore. I'm done. I don't get. And the
Yep.
thing is, it's beautiful. I don't get mad anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like such a happy person now. I I play games and I actually have fun. It's crazy. It's like a whole new
Yep.
experience versus playing NHL 12 hours a day for the last like 10 years.
Hey, I'll say this: when you got you got hut champs, you were jacked up.
Oh man,
Okay,
it was
you know what I
great.
mean? Like that's a moment. Okay,
Yeah,
like
no,
I'll tell you what, I
I
won
tell
16
you.
games and I was like, ah, Chad, I'm not awful. All right, I'm not a
You know what?
14 win Andy anymore.
It would be tougher now. I think there's more. I think there's more good players, and it's
Oh,
just been increasing as it has been every
the way
single year.
Rivals works
Yeah,
has made everyone better than they've ever been at the game.
yeah,
Like
and
just the way it works. Like you're never playing a bad player. You're playing someone around your skill level. Like
yeah,
it's never been worse. It's forced to get better. I will say this: getting Division 1 means something. I think that the guys that are in Division 1 that roll their eyes, like 2150 is tough to get to.
yeah.
And I would say when I got that, I was like, okay, I proved that I'm at least half decent at the game. Because if you get, there's a lot of people out there that won't get Div.
No, I gave up before I got there. So
Yep.
I was
It's
sitting
hard.
at the
It's
top
hard.
of Div 2 for like so long, and
Div 2 is
finally
the hardest.
I that was when I gave up. I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done.
Yep. No.
So no, it's true. It's true. But I mean, like the thing is, so you know, there's more good players now, but at the time when I was able to get like top whatever in champs, it was electric. I will say that. Like it was a great streaming experience, but I'll tell you what, there were a lot of lows too. There were so many where I was
Especially
just like,
streaming.
yeah,
'Cause it
I just
goes
lost
back
my
to,
mind,
like,
and I
It's normal. You don't want to blame. No one wants to blame themselves, and a lot of the time, sometimes it isn't your own fault. So like,
sometimes,
but
yeah.
you have to. Your camera's on. You can't be like,
Yeah.
unless you're Josh, and that's your gimmick.
No, I
Like,
mean,
you can't
listen, I didn't-
smash your control. Like that's a clip. If I do that, I am on Reddit. I'm on Twitter for like that is it. Like you know what I mean? Like the second I do an NHL broadcast, they're like, look at this dude. He just put his fist through his wall. Like
yeah.
I can't do that. So I'm just like.
I never
Fun
broke
gameplay
anything, but trust me, I was close at certain points. I was living in the dorms at the times that I played HUD champs, and I mean, I punched my desk quite a few times. I will tell that. But like my stream persona used to be like I was good, and then all of a sudden like the other side of Leafy showed up, and it was just like it was the darkest time. But I mean, now it's completely different.
Leafy.
Yeah, it's just now it's totally different. Now we have good vibes here. It's great.
That's not a bad thing though.
No, it's not. Trust me, it's way
get
better.
out of it. Like there'll be a time. Cookie's done.
Yeah,
Cookie's moved on. Like you know what I mean? Like that. I think that happens. I think like this is my career, and we didn't ever talk about this. Like there'll be a point at which I play NHL, but it's not every day.
mm.
Like you know what I mean? Like there will come a point with that. There's days where I come up, and don't get me wrong. Like I would take working 12 hours a day doing what I'm doing right now over working 4 hours a day 5 times a week at any other job that I don't love.
Yeah.
But like there's times where I'm like, I gotta do 4 hours in NHL today. You know what I mean? Like, and it's tough. It's tough. And especially when it's like your main source of income. People don't understand this. Like, bro, we'll just play another game. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go from 200 viewers to 45. Like, I don't think, like would you go to your work and just be like, yo, I'm gonna do this other job that I might be slightly better at my own job, but hey, you gotta take like 50% off your paycheck. How many are you doing that? You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. Now eventually I hope to be in a spot where I can wake up and play any game I want. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Becoming a variety streamer is like trying to be a rock star. Like
yeah,
like you know what I mean? Like that's
crazy.
the hardest you have to get everyone to like your personality, which I hope that my viewers do. But like, you know what I mean? Like
it's
just
tough
a
in
gameplay.
sports games too, because like your chatters will be there for your personality. Like the people that are always there to talk to you will be there for your personality. But like there's so many viewers there that
are just
watching NHL. They don't really care. You might be their favorite NHL streamer, but they don't care to go watch somebody else if you're doing something
exactly.
else.
They will just move on, which is scary.
Really tough for sports games.
That's the most stressful thing doing what I do. Like that's the most difficult thing. Like real talk, like if I take the thing about Twitch is like you're only as relevant as like your last stream. So you mentioned how I'm on like a 200 stream day. That's because I hit such a boom this year that I'm so scared to lose it. Like if I took 2 weeks off, I would come back and I would get a big viewership bump that first day. But like I'd probably lose like 25 viewers that I would normally get to like Henrique. Just because I wasn't there and Henrique was there and maybe they clicked more with him, or you know what I mean, or sad. And like that's not just this directory, that's literally any directory on Twitch. So like I can't do that, you know what I mean? And then the stress like of like, hey, now I gotta be good at the game because I'll just get flamed. And now I am Leafy, okay. I am not very great. I'm not great at a lot of things in life, but let me tell you, I am better than every single NHL streamer at roasting a troll. And it is not close. Any of my viewers that are in here know that I've now become famous for absolutely destroying trolls. And that is where I get the biggest enjoyment of streaming NHL. Like getting someone to come in and talk shit on my stream is like, I actually like, I look at it real quick while I'm like in a game and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is going to get it. And then now I have a soundboard too, where I can make like really funny voices and stuff.
I love soundboards. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, did you see my clip on Twitter? Did
yes,
you see that?
I did.
Okay, it makes me laugh. Like that made me laugh, and I was like, okay, this is great. So yeah, like you got to find funny ways to deal with it. But like, yeah, man, like that's the hard part, man. If I take days off, like I'm gonna go play MLB for 4 hours a day, and then I'm gonna do 4 hours of NHL, and the entire time I'm playing MLB, everyone is gonna assume I'm not playing NHL anymore. But then at 2 p.m., I'm gonna switch over to NHL. And it's just like it's tough. It's tough growing in this business.
I'll tell you that. So you've been streaming NHL for nearly 200 days straight. I used to stream 5 days a week NHL. I took a break where I wasn't streaming it at all for like a couple months this year. I stream it once a week on Wednesdays now, and I still get people that come into my chat every other day of the week that say, "So you're not playing NHL anymore?" Every day. And I don't get it. I've been doing this for the entire year. Even last year, I didn't stream at all. I stopped in November probably last year. I was done. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was at like I had some other issues. I had like life, and I mean I'm a full-time student, so like, and
you're in a demanding course.
I'm in a biology program. I have some very demanding courses, and last year I just couldn't do it. So I was done. And I don't know how it's still possible. Like, it's been 2 years now since I've streamed NHL every day, or 5 days a week.
Because, so, like, people, when you first became bigger, like, I want to say, like, I honestly, because I wasn't invested in, like, the community really until, like, 2018, I really didn't know who you were until you became a game changer. But, like, those people that knew you early on and that were showing up, they followed you because of NHL.
Yeah.
Right. And like that. So they expect you. So this is from a YouTuber now. So I'm going to start making MLB content and everyone's like, okay, like what? That's fine. The amount of people that I will lose subscribers probably for the first like 2 or 3 weeks on my channel because they don't want to get an email notification saying that I am put out an MLB video because they're like, hey, I didn't subscribe to you for MLB. I only subscribed to you for and that's fair. Like that is what will happen.
Yeah.
Until they're like they realize that I'm a freak when it comes to work ethic, and I literally I will probably make more NHL. I have made over 300 NHL 21 videos. Like I will make more NHL videos come the launch of MLB to counter the fact that because I know this will happen. It's way worse on YouTube than it is on Twitch. Because the drop, you will literally lose it early on, which is tough. But YouTube is the most important thing, becoming a content creator, which is tough. But for streamers, they don't want to hear this. They want to grow. Like I'll use Newfie. Newfie as an example. Newfie is a great streamer, super entertaining.
Very energetic, yeah.
Exactly, super energetic. This will only last as long as he can stream 5 days a week, unless you have a YouTube channel. Like it just will not work. If you look at every big NHL streamer, we all have one thing, and I'm talking like the ones now, and I'm proud to be in that group now. But like all of them are YouTubers, and the reason why is because there's so many more viewers on YouTube. Like my boom, and you got to remember, I didn't stream NHL the entire summer. Henrique was doing it every single day.
Yeah.
So to be able to pull the same numbers while Henrique is streaming, I was like, this isn't going to happen. And I was really concerned about it. But my YouTube channel went from 13,000 subscribers the day before NHL 21 to 25 now. So I basically doubled what I had in 6 months from the prior 4 years. And it allowed me, everyone's like, okay, I watched this YouTube video. Oh, but he's streaming live now. I'm going to go watch that. Like people don't realize that. So like my YouTube channel finally, after all the years of me not wanting to make YouTube videos, finally paid off for me, because now I'm getting like, in a month I'll get like 300,000 views. So now all those views are like, okay, well, come watch you stream when you're streaming live. And a lot of my viewer base is older, like what I used to do. So like while I'm at work, I would watch Way Up Gaming. I'd watch Louis every single day while I was at work until Sod came on. Then I would watch Sod, but at work. So there's so many guys that are literally just having me on because they're at work. And now because they watch a YouTube video, they can go watch me on, on stream. I released 2 videos before I go live today. Like it's just, and I said, hey, later on in the day, I'm going to be on Twitch. Like that's why it's so important. And it sucks because people are like, hey, I want to be a Twitch streamer, that they only focus on Twitch, which makes sense. Not the case. Like not the case. YouTube is real estate. Twitch is a 9-to-5 job. And that's the hard reality of it. And like, it ends up being tough, but like, grinding one game is very difficult on both of the platforms, and it ends up becoming a drain, I'll tell you. It ends up, especially doing it on multiple platforms every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice, I guess, for you, because like you've actually seen like all the time you put into it like kind of pay off, right? I mean, I was never doing it to get a job anyway. I was just doing it for fun.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. My philosophy was I'm not very good at editing and making a video like Nasher does, or even like Thrash is much better than me at YouTube. But like, so I'm just much more informative because that's easy. I made it my mission. You might not like my content, but there is so much of it that you will respect the grind. Like that was literally like, you may not like what I'm putting out, but you'll be like, damn, all right, good job, dude. Like that's a ton.
No, it's
like,
definitely
that's
true.
just an alternative way to go at it, right?
And honestly, the informative stuff, it has such wide reach too, because I remember somebody I'm in a group chat with was like, hey, can you explain to me the GWC? And I was like, no, I can't. I don't know. Like, and they did a quick search and they were like, oh, Steve's put out a video. I'll just watch this real quick. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect. When you figure it out, let me know.
Tip videos are the best on YouTube.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got off on a tangent here. Listen, I'm gonna cut this off because this has been the longest one that we've done so far, by far.
Okay.
But I'll bring you back because I have a whole list of things that.
Okay.
I have a document. I have a Google Doc, and it has just like
Google. You love your docs, let me tell you.
Listen, I'm very good at putting things in writing because I have all these thoughts. I have random thoughts all the time, and if I don't write them down, then I'll never remember them again.
So I never write them down. I forget everything.
Yeah, so
it's a win.
So I when I was planning out this podcast, I wrote down everything I remembered, everything I could think of. I wrote it down in a Google Doc. So I have this whole list that's just pages of questions. And honestly, we didn't get to a lot of topics because we just kept going off on tangents. But I honestly think this was a fantastic conversation, and there's so much more to unravel. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun talking, and a few weeks maybe I'll hit you up again, and we'll talk more about some other stuff.
Absolutely. Name the time and date and I'll be here.
All right, perfect. So everybody tuned in, whether you're watching live or watching later on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Back next week, of course, Wednesday. Don't know who, but it'll be great again, of course. Sleeves, thank you so much for being here.
No problem.